not always about texture. It's not always about taste. It's not always about what was so yummy in your tummy. Too much of the yummy in tummy got you to the point that you're maybe overweight or your body fat percentage is off the chart. We need to start thinking about food and look at it from a different perspective, not just to fill yourself up. I mean, I've had patients in the past saying, "Oh, doc, I don't know if I could do that because it just doesn't fill me up." You know, their perspective of eating is to be filled up. And in just a few moments, or maybe in the next lesson, I'll tell you about how to fill yourself up, but not to fill yourself out. Okay, there's a way of doing that. So now, understanding in the next step in the carbohydrate family, we go into our grains, and we have our regular white rice type of grain where the husk is taken off. Now, in the husk, the outer layer, which makes the rice go from a white rice to a brown rice. Okay, the brown rice still has the husk on, has the outer layer. And that outer layer causes a couple of things. It causes you to have more fiber and more of the vitamin mineral content of that food because that's where most of it's located. Now the downside of the whole grain is the cooking time. It's going to take longer to cook a whole grain rice than it would be a regular white rice. As a matter of fact, there's instant rices that are, 5 minutes in the boiling water, or there's one now you microwave. You just put it in the package in your microwave and you have the rice. It's already cooked. Okay, the whole grain rice that has the darker husk on it, and the darker the husk, the more the fiber, the more nutrients in it. Will take anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. Barley takes about an hour and 10 minutes to cook. Spelt, which is one of my favorite grains, and it has a great nutty taste to it, and has a pinkish color. It takes about an hour or so to cook that grain to the right tenderness. And it's delicious. You just have to experiment. Some people say, well, it's more money. Yeah, it's a little bit more money, but you know what? What you spend more, we'll put it like this. The difference in having spent a little bit more on the whole grain rice, cut the cake out. Cut those little candies out that you're spending a fortune on, with the high calories from the simple sugars and the hydrogenated oils that are poisoning your system. Cut out the junk and start adding in the good and nutritious food. Okay, so that's the substitution. And the rice itself is approximately 200 calories a cupful. Both brown rice, dark rice, black rice, mahogany rice, spelt, quinoa. It's all approximately the same between the simple sugar, the simple fashion or the simple carbohydrate fashion of it, and the complex carbohydrate. Again, the difference is the nutritional value and, of course, the glycemic index that goes along with the more complex carbohydrates. The next we have our bread families, and that's all our baked goods, and it could be sliced bread, it could be Italian bread, it could be bagels, it could be croissants, it could be flatbreads, pita breads. Look at the label of what it says. Typically, a sliced bread, a typical slice of bread, be it whole grain, whole wheat, whole sprout, they're all in and around the same amount of calories per slice. As a matter of fact, the sprouted breads and some of the wheat or whole grain breads, they're significantly heavier, and therefore they're going to be more calories per slice. Nonetheless, they're significantly more nutritious than a slice of white bread that has basically no nutritional value at all, but calorie-wise, they're sort of the same. And a slice could go anywhere between 120 to 150 calories, or when you're recording it on your food diary log, somewhere between 12 to 15 points in that food diary log. So it's always good to understand that. Of course, the option is to go to the whole grain fashion, which is going to be more nutritious. Another one to understand is from a food perspective is potatoes. It's a very, very common food, and we have it in a lot of fashions. Some people, because potatoes grow in the ground, they say, well, that's a vegetable. Well, it is, it is vegetation, but for our argument here, it's going to be in the starch family because of its caloric value and the consistency of the potato. The potato, a white potato, boiled or baked, a cup is approximately 150 calories, or 15 points. Now, a sweet potato, which is the orange-looking potato, or a yam, has a different flavor to it, and it's kind of a little sweeter than the regular potato. But nonetheless, that potato has a lower glycemic index than the white potato. And therefore it has a slightly better chance of a slow conversion to glucose into your blood sugar, making your blood sugar level not rise as fast. And nonetheless, if you're eating the yellow potato, or I mean the white potato, or the sweet potato, or the yam, which also has a higher nutritional value to it, always try to include in the eating of the potato, if you're mashing it, smashing it, baking it, or however you're trying to cook it, include the skin. You know, not too many people like the skin. They don't like the texture. It feels like you're eating cardboard or a piece of paper. But the skin, make sure it's cleaned properly. But the skin has a lot of nutritional value to it. It has a lot of fiber in it. It has a lot of minerals. That's where it's stored. You know, God's a little different than the rest of us. He packs the most nutritional amount on the outside. So it's like when you get a present for Christmas, you take the outside, the paper, and you throw it out, and you want to see what's in the box. This is a little different. That outside wrapper is very nutritious, and we'll learn more about that when we get to our fruit section also. So the potato is somewhere around 15 points in its caloric value. Now let me jump back to the breads again. The breads, you have to look at it from a volume perspective, and we don't always get that when I'm talking about a volume perspective. What I mean is this: a slice of bread and a bagel. Well, the average bagel is probably twice as heavy as the regular slice of bread, so therefore the average bagel is somewhere between 250 to 300 calories for the bagel. That's a plain bagel, which can increase if you're going to have a cinnamon raisin bagel or a blueberry bagel or some bagel that's going to have other food substance in there that's going to increase the weight of that bagel or whatever the baked good may be. Some baked goods are higher in butter content just in the making of it, or higher in their oil content in the making of it, and it's going to have the increase in the calories, and therefore that has to be recorded on your food diary log. You can't cheat on the log because at the end of the day, when you get on the scale and you measure your body fat percentage, if it's not working, it's not because of the stars aren't aligned in the sky correctly. It's because the food wasn't recorded on the chart correctly. The numbers don't lie. So therefore, we need to be very accurate with the numbers. So then we have then we want to go into the breakfast cereals, or the hot and cold breakfast cereals. Now, some breakfast cereals are, they could be deceiving, because when it says on the serving size, it may say it's 190 calories per serving. And then one may say it's 140 calories per serving. You have to look what their serving size is. Is their serving size a cup, or is it 3/4 of a cup? I mean, I saw a cereal that promotes their dietary nature to their cereal, that if you have this, you'll lose some weight. But you have to have their serving size, which is 25% less than some other cereal serving size. So, of course, if you're consuming less, you're going to gain less weight because you're consuming less calories on that food product. So you need to be able to look at that and discern what they're really speaking about. But if you keep your dry cereal level somewhere under 200 calories per cupful, and that's going to be part of your breakfast when you add your soy milk or almond milk or fat-free milk, of course, the whole meal is going to be higher, but that's usually a good rule of thumb to look at. Now, if the calorie amount goes to like 22 or 25 points or 250 calories per cup load, then it's a high sugar, frosted type of extra sugar sprinkled cereal, and that's what we want to avoid. We want to stay away from those. We want to go to the whole grain and as low calorie as possible with the cold cereals. Now, with the hot cereals, a similar fashion. Okay, oatmeal and a couple of other products are made from a whole grain cooking hot cereal. Those cereals, you want to discern those by the time it takes to cook. Okay, now oatmeal is a good choice. There's the cream of wheats and the farinas and stuff. Those are actually already ground down into a simple carbohydrate. Their caloric value is going to be a little higher. Their glycemic index is going to be a little higher. You just got to record it. You got to know what you're eating. Grits, it's going to be a little higher. I mean, it may sound like it's wholesome, but it's a simple carbohydrate. But the oatmeal that you have to cook for 10 minutes, and it may not always be practical. It may be the same calories as regular instant oatmeal, but nonetheless, it's going to have a lower glycemic index. Now, the oatmeal, like when you get a package of oatmeal and you pour it in, you put the hot water, it's not the worst choice in the world. And you have to look at what the carbohydrate, what the calorie value on it is. But, you know, I've tried that, and, you know, it's not a cup. It may not even be a half a cup. It may be a third of a cup. It's a couple of spoonfuls, and it's going to be 100 and something calories. Because a lot of times in those packages, they make it maple flavor and peaches and cream, and it's so delicious. It tastes like a mushy candy bar. But you're paying for it in the calories, as opposed to a cup of regular, good old-fashioned, stirred for 10 or 15 minutes cooked oatmeal, and you put a little, you know, cinnamon on it, which doesn't have any calories necessarily for it, and that cup is 150 calories, and it fills you up full, you know, right through to lunch. Different story. But it's all about the discerning of it, you know, discerning the amounts and how much you're having and how much you're consuming. And the key to the carbohydrate family is this, because this is by far the biggest killer in every single person's diet, that they're going to be overweight or have a higher body fat percentage. It's the amount of carbohydrates you're eating, because they add up fast. I mean, faster than fast. It's the most rapidly adding up category that anybody can ever measure. And even when you're thinking you're being health conscious now, I mean, and watch what I'm saying. Oh, I'm going to have a little oatmeal for breakfast, and then for lunch I'm going to have a turkey sandwich, and for dinner I'm just going to have 1 cup of whole of brown rice. And now it was wholesome. You did pretty good considering what you used to do. But when you add those numbers up, well, you had 150 calories with the oatmeal in the carbohydrate family. Then you had another 150 calories with the 1 slice of the whole grain bread. You're at 300 now. You're at 30 points. Remember, the limit on the 120 point or 1200 calorie benchmark is 30%, which is 36 points or 360 calories. You didn't get to the cup of rice, the brown rice you had at the other end at dinner time there. That's 200 calories. So you had now, when you add it up, you had 500 calories for the day. Now, you could still potentially lose weight, you know, because maybe you didn't have the other 700 calories you didn't really consume. You didn't have any vegetables, and maybe you had a piece of chicken. So your overall number may be under 1,200. You may eventually start losing weight just because you've limited the amount of calories going into your diet. But you did nothing to increase your metabolic function. You did nothing to increase the conversion of lean muscle from fat to lean muscle. You're not really improving your overall metabolic function or your overall nutritional function. You got to get that volume of food down to about 36 points. And if you're still hungry, because you will be, especially if you're making a change, that's when in the next part of the lesson, when we start talking about the vegetables, we need to increase those vegetables. We need to get that vegetable number up, not only for its nutritional value, not only for its fiber value, but for the value that it just is pure volume. It fills you up, and you need to get filled up. I don't want you to walk away here like I'm starving. No, I want you to walk away, and as a matter of fact, I'd say 95% of the people who just follow that example, which is meant for an example just for recording purposes, but if you follow that example that's on the food diary log on the bottom of the sheet, and you did that for the first couple of times, you'll be stuffed because you probably don't eat that volume of vegetables. In this case, we're primarily functioning on the consumption of the carbohydrates. Remember, record it as you eat it, as you go along. Don't cheat or forget to do it. You have the time to do it, put it in there. Don't go over the 30% number. So if you're at that 1,200 benchmark, remember that's a bank account you cannot go over. You cannot pass that number. It's critical that we're recording it down in that fashion. Understand the foods, ask questions, go on the internet, do some research, and you'll do fine. Next lesson we're going to talk about, we're going to cover the vegetables and the proteins, and then we'll go on to the other ones, the fruits and the dairies, as we finish up with this lesson on the Dominion diet. Okay? See you in a few.